Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And welcome to the Financial Survival Network. It's Kerry Lutz here, and it's time for another Triple Lutz Report. And this episode is brought to you by Cloud Hard Assets. If you're looking for gold, silver, diamonds, then call up Tom Cloud at 800-247-2812, 800-247-2812, or visit Tom at cloudhardassets.com. Tom's been in the business for 38 years, longer than just about anybody else out there. No BBB complaints, no lawsuits, no nothing. Tom is a straight shooter, Southern gentleman. You're going to get the best deals with him, exclusive for FSN listeners, free shipping, free insurance on any order you place with him. Just tell him that Kerry sent you. And diamonds, well, not just a girl's best friend. In the past 3 years, also been an investor's best friend. But we're not talking colorless diamonds, talking colored diamonds. The movement's already been made in the blues and the pinks. The yellows now, according to Tom, are the place to be. Tom gets you prices that you can't even get from wholesalers on 47th Street in Manhattan. Tom says 8% over his cost. You just can't find prices like that. Highly recommended. That's what I'm going to be adding to my portfolio now. I've already got as much gold and silver as I can handle. So highly recommended. Tom Cloud, Cloud Hard Assets, 800-247-2812. And if you want to support the show, which we'd really appreciate because we want to go to video, got a couple of more people I'm looking at to also host shows on the network, then go to clubfsn.com, clubfsn.com. We've got premiums for you, newsletters, webinars, and if you do $10 a month or more, we're going to give you a free pre-1965 dime. 90% silver. Okay. So sign up today. Really, really appreciate your support. There's thousands of you out there listening to the show every day, both on the podcast, on the upload from the site to financialsurvivalnetwork.com, as well as up on libertyexpressradio.com, which is the leading, and I mean the leading libertarian source for information. We run it 24/7. It is truly a gem of a resource, and I can't urge you enough to go over there. Check it out now. Guys like Tom Woods, partner Alan Butler, there's so much info on there to help you prepare for the tsunami that's heading your way. And there's just so many great stories out there. This kid in New York, man, fraudster, hoaxster. I don't think he's a fraudster because he didn't take any money from anybody. But supposedly the Post got a hold of it and a couple of others, and he had supposedly made $72 million. But as it turned out, the devil's in the details. He was, going to restaurants, having $400 worth of caviar and freshly squeezed apple juice. Not my ideal meal, mind you. Caviar is okay. I mean, look, it's the food of snobs. I like it okay. It's not my favorite food. But so the 17-year-old trading genius, Stuyvesant High School in New York City. It's an elite high school, more Nobel Prize winners coming out of that high school than just about any place. So he's interviewed. His name's Muhammad Islam, and he says that his net worth is in the high 8 figures. And they go around with him, and he said, he's only 17, but he's got a Beamer, he's got an apartment in the city, and he showed them a bank statement, and this is New York Magazine gets sucked into it. And I admit, I was a little wary of it. Like, how do you make $72 million in the stock market? Well, if you were psychic and you knew what tomorrow's headlines would be, or next week's or next month's, you could probably do really well, probably even better than Goldman Sachs. But as far as I know, he didn't have that ability. Like I said, I just didn't quite buy into it. It just seemed a little wary, but I wanted it to be true. I really did, because, hey, you want the American dream to be alive. So as it turned out, total fiction. So why should we be surprised? But hey, he got his 15 minutes of fame, and, he got on there, but he would have had to get a 796 annualized return over the past 3 years. Just not very likely. And the Post was treating it, New York Post was treating it as if it was real. And, I wish him the best. At least he might not make it in the financial arena, but he will make it in the PR arena. That's for sure, because, he had all of these geniuses in the media feeding out of the palm of his hand. I mean, it's just remarkable that he could pull it off. And, it's just great. I love it. I really, really love it. And, so de Blasio, he's just the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, if I was worried at all about the departure of Nanny Bloomberg, I don't know why I should have been, because de Blasio is like all of the worst things of Bloomberg with none of the good things. Like, Nanny was a numbers guy. Okay. Nanny knew how to look at a spreadsheet and how to really get things going in the city, how to get business going there. And, Nanny just knew like what it took to make something go. I think his policies were stupid. These bike lanes that have metastasized around New York, trying to make it Beijing. I mean, it's just absurd. But, this is one of these things that's really sick. So this guy who died, Garner, he was selling untaxed cigarettes, right? So he dies and is supposedly from a chokehold. Personally, the cop probably used excessive force, but what was Garner? Unlike Muhammad Islam, he was an arbitrager. He would buy cigarettes, untaxed cigarettes, at a discount, and then he'd sell them individually on the street, and he would make a profit, exploiting the ridiculous tax laws in New York City and New York State. And, the tax right now on a carton of cigarettes, so there's 10 packs of cigarettes in a carton of cigarettes, right? And there's 20 cigarettes in each pack, 200 cigarettes. The tax on a carton of cigarettes is $58.50. So tremendous incentive to smuggle them in. And de Blasio says, Eric Garner was a decent man. Obviously, it was a minor offense he was committing. There's no way it should have ended up in this situation. That's what de Blasio said December 4th, a day after the grand jury ruling. And, what they covered up is that this is just remarkable. He ordered city lawyers to stay silent about a groundbreaking lawsuit to keep bootleg cigarettes out of the Big Apple, because it came as he was downplaying the illegal cigarette sales that led to the ill-fated arrest of Eric Garner. And the law department that's the Corporation Counsel, drafted a civil racketeering lawsuit the same week that the grand jury didn't indict the NYPD cop, Daniel Pantaleo. And, like I say, this guy shouldn't be dead for this. I mean, he was just an entrepreneur operating slightly outside of the law. And he sold these cigarettes, one at a time. And they drafted a press release boasting that the suit is the first of its kind brought by the city against an out-of-state entity for supplying cigarette traffickers. And they suppressed the news, ordering the law department not to put out the release. And the move kept de Blasio from looking like the hypocrite that he is for cracking down on illegal tobacco sales at the same time he was minimizing Garner's criminal activity, which led to his deadly July 17th arrest. And you think about this, the city is losing hundreds of millions, perhaps billions of dollars in cigarette smuggling. And one city official said City Hall knew they had screwed up, so they squashed the press release. And you can't have the mayor babbling away that selling Lucy's, that's what they call the cigarettes, is a minor offense, but then have the law department, which represents and protects the city and the mayor's interests, file this lawsuit. It reeks of duplicity, but that is de Blasio's middle initial. His middle name is Duplicity. And, he's pandering to his voting base, and then he spews this nonsense that selling Lucy's is a minor offense. But he realizes this is a major issue with serious ramifications if left unchecked. And he has the city's law department file the first of the kind federal lawsuit. They're suing Discount Tobacco and Things of Woodbridge, Virginia, and its president, Gabby Nura, who are accused of conspiring to violate Federal Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. And the papers say the smoke shop, which is located in a suburban strip mall outside of Richmond, which is where Staten Island bootlegger Michael Zechary bought more than 2,500 cartons of cigarettes that cops found in his van last month. And Zechary had, for at least the 2 prior years, purchased similar quantities of cigarettes and made those purchases far more frequently than every 10 weeks. So they were looking for an order barring this company from distributing cigarettes in New York and trying to get all the illegal profits and unspecified damages, including 3 times the amount of tax money lost to the trafficking scheme. Now, Nura didn't return a request for comment. I mean, this is going to go nowhere. I mean, come on. Like, unless Nuri is actually there selling the cigarettes on the streets of Manhattan, this is totally absurd. And de Blasio put his foot in his mouth in another thing. They're calling him, like, the cops are just calling him a nincompoop. It's just it just goes on and on. You got to love this guy because he just every time he opens his mouth, he puts his foot in his mouth. So this is from Jamie Wearing Fools, or Jammy Wearing Fools, JAMMIEWF. And NYPD shreds de Blasio after cops are assaulted by peaceful protesters. And de Blasio has again spit in the face of city cops, using the word allegedly to describe the vicious mob attack on 2 NYPD lieutenants, outraged police reps said last Sunday, and bending over backwards to praise the city's anti-cop protesters for their peaceful behavior, even as some chanted on Saturday night, "What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want it? Now." The mayor said the attack was an incident in which a small group of protesters allegedly assaulted some members of the NYPD. And they're saying when cops are the accused, the word alleged never enters into the discussion. which fumed Michael Palladino, president of the NYPD Detectives Endowment Association. Ed Mullins of the Sergeants Benevolent Association called de Blasio a total nincompoop for his handling of this situation, said his actions are contributing to the injuries that are being received by NYPD, which is something they're not talking about in these peaceful protests. The cops are getting the stuffing knocked out of them. And maybe he should be out there to take the broken nose for the lieutenant. Ask him if he'd be willing to stand out there and take punches for the cops, he added. Some cops were even comparing de Blasio to his political mentor, ex-mayor David Dinkins, who was reviled for apologizing to the family of a drug dealer killed while resisting arrest, and then paying for the thug's funeral. That was a big stink during the early 1990s. And he's at a crossroads right now where he's going to have to figure out what side he's standing on. With cops ending up in hospitals, he can't play both. And the two lieutenants were beaten on the bridge. They work in the department's legal bureau and were on the scene to ensure that the protesters' civil rights were respected by cops. You just can't make this stuff up. This is why progressive liberals are so dangerous. They were punched and kicked in their faces and heads when they went to arrest a CUNY professor, Eric Linsker of Brooklyn, as he tried to heave a garbage can onto other cops from an elevated walkway. And this is allegedly. I mean, the guys were beat up. They wound up in the hospital. There's no alleged here. And he's an adjunct professor teaching an English composition course at Baruch College. He should be fired. And he was arraigned Sunday evening on a single count of second-degree assault, 3 counts of fourth-degree criminal possession of a weapon, and 1 count each of resisting arrest, first-degree rioting, and unlawful possession of marijuana. So meanwhile, the mostly peaceful protesters, egged on by Obama pal Al Sharpton, called for death of police Saturday. And isn't it wonderful? I mean, this guy is just a world-class idiot. And if you had any doubts, you shouldn't have any doubts any longer. So on to currency wars. Currency wars, you know, the Russian ruble is just getting the stuffing kicked out of it. It's just remarkable to think that it's just the result of market forces. But hey, markets are honest. We have honest markets whose sole purpose is price discovery. And right now, the price discovery happening with the Russian ruble, it fell, 10% on Monday, and they raised the Russian interest rates from 10 to 17%. It went up 15%. Then the traders were back on it today, December 16th, 2014. It lost another 15%. And some people are speculating that the only thing left for good old Vlad Putin, who many call the Antichrist, is to back it by gold. But, Joe Willie has said they have been ready to do this for years, and maybe they're going to do it. I'm not convinced. I just don't think that they want nobody wants to willingly back their currency with gold. I mean, they just don't. And, it's that simple. And you're seeing it with Venezuela. You're going to see it with Iran soon. Anyone who is anti-dollar is going to get slammed. And the Chinese are just sitting back, and they are just basically waiting for it all to end so they can run things. And if they can do it better, well, God bless them, because any government trying to run things, this is what you wind up with. Let's face it. I mean, it's just you can't let these guys run things. It's really that simple. It just keeps going on and on like this until the thing collapses. And prior to the collapse, just picture it as a bridge that's about to collapse, like the Seattle-Tacoma Bridge. If you ever saw the pictures of it, it looks stable right up until the minute where it's going to collapse, and then it starts swaying all over the place, and people who are on it just want to get off. Some of them manage to get off, but the people who are in the middle of the span who thought it was really secure, they can't get off. And you don't want to be that person stuck in the middle of the bridge as it goes down. Trust me on that. So you need to get off the bridge or not get on the bridge in the first place. And, don't get caught up in it, because, if they're willing to take on the Russians, they're willing to take on the Venezuelans and the Iranians and sink them this way. If you're collateral damage, then you know what's going to happen to you. So there's a guy named Al C. Hastings, and not too far from where I live is a carved out district just for Al C. He's African American. He's one of 6 federal judges who were removed from office for corruption, and he managed to get himself elected congressman. And it's this community called Riviera Beach, and this guy harassed an aide. He's been guilty of sexual harassment. He's 78 years old, but I guess 78 is the new 38. And he harassed this woman for years. She complained to the House Ethics Committee, and they found that there was adequate cause to believe that he had, it's just, you just can't make this up. He threatened to ruin her. First, he propositioned her. Then he threatened to ruin her career when she said no. But the House report cleared him of harassment. And, the official evidence reveals how he propositioned her for sex at a hotel during work trip to Europe, continually propositioned her. She continually said no. He propositioned others, and he exploded with rage when she said no. And, just a badass guy. And, you got to admire this woman for putting up with him and just really, trying to do her job. But both the House Committee on Ethics and the Office of Congressional Ethics investigated Hastings, who the reports say had 2 girlfriends at the time, but concluded he did not breach the rules of conduct. I don't understand that. They only admonished him for behavior that was less than professional in the latest of many controversial blots on the 78-year-old's career. And, he told the OCE that he hugged her, Winsome Packer, every time she said he did, and that he hugs many different people. He was impeached for bribery and perjury in 1988, becoming only the 6th such person in a position in U.S. history to be forced off the bench. But, he's got his constituency there. They seem to approve of him, and God bless him. I guess we get the government that we deserve, whether we deserve it or not. And, hey, Uber. So Uber, they got government problems all over the place. So they hired David Plouffe, who was Obama's architect of his campaign. He was like Obama's Karl Rove. And they're making headway here in the U.S., lobbying. They get users. They just go into a market and say, none of your laws apply because Uber didn't exist when you passed your taxi and limo commission laws, and we're just going to start doing business, and then we'll see what happens. And then the county or the town will rise up, and then they'll go lobby, and they get this Plouffe in there who's got ties to the White House, and somehow it all works out. It's amazing. But France banned ride-sharing apps, and Europe is none too innovative, and they like their monopolies just fine. I kind of like this Uber. I've never used it. My friends have used it. Just swear by it. It's cheaper. It's more efficient. You rate your drivers and you pick your drivers based on the rating. It's a great service, kind of like Airbnb, but government-sanctioned monopolies are freaking out over it. And having Plouffe, they'll go lobby, they start these huge email campaigns, and then they go in there and cut a deal with the powers that be in each community, county, town, whatever. Works great. Anyway, we're done. So just go over to clubfsn.com. You want to support the show and get us on video. We'd love for you to do that. Clubfsn.com. This is Kerry Lutz. Been another Triple Lutz Report, signing off.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.